Have you ever gone to sleep carrying that really heavy physical regret of unkept promises?
Oh, lying there in the dark, just, staring at the ceiling.
Right, running through all the things you didn't do today and quietly whispering to yourself like, I'll start tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a very crowded room, that space of starting tomorrow, and it's a pretty painful place to live.
It really is. So today we're taking a deep dive into an incredibly resonant excerpt from a book called The Architecture of Habitual Transformation.
Which is such a fascinating text.
It really is, yeah. It's part behavioral psychology, part narrative nonfiction. The specific excerpt we're looking at today is titled, You Are Not Lazy. You Are Missing Decent Habits.
A very confrontational title, I think.
Oh, completely. Because our mission today is to completely dismantle that heavy, suffocating word lazy. We're going to look at the actual mechanics of human behavior, why we get stuck, and, how quiet, seemingly microscopic actions are really the only things that reshape our identity.
Right. The core thesis we're exploring from this text is, it's both confronting and deeply liberating at the same time.
Yeah.
It is simply this: your future isn't built by what you want. It is built by what you repeat.
Wow. Okay, let's unpack that right away. Because wanting is easy, right?
Oh, wanting is the easiest thing in the world.
Exactly. We all want a better life. We want to be healthier or more successful or, more present. But the source material grounds this in a very relatable story.
It does, yeah.
It introduces us to this man who truly, fundamentally believed he was lazy.
And I think we really need to look at how that belief formed. Because it wasn't an overnight realization.
Right, it never is.
No, it was built through negative repetition. Like every single morning, he woke up with this profound sense of dread. And every night, he went to sleep with those unkept promises we just talked about.
Just piling up.
Exactly. The text illustrates this devastating cycle of, looking at your dreams, seeing the vast gap between where you are and where you want to be, and then
using that ultimate pressure release valve.
Yes. I'll just start tomorrow.
But, tomorrow never came. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months.
And the author dives into the psychological toll of that cycle, which is fascinating.
What happens in the brain there?
Well, when you constantly promise yourself you'll do something and you constantly fail to follow through, you aren't just delaying a goal.
Right.
You are actively eroding your baseline level of self-trust. It creates this massive cognitive dissonance.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. So to protect himself from the pain of constant failure, this man's brain did something very natural but incredibly destructive.
He leaned into the label.
He did. He began to accept a painful idea.
Yeah.
He started to tell himself, maybe this is just who I am.
And maybe this is you listening to this right now.
Yeah.
Maybe you're sitting there wearing this label of lazy, like a heavy winter coat, just assuming it's baked into your personality. You think, I guess I just don't have what it takes to be disciplined.
It's such a crushing weight to carry around.
It really is.
It's a profound burden. Because when you label yourself as lazy, you're making an identity statement. You're essentially telling your brain that the flaw is, in your DNA.
Like it's unchangeable.
Exactly. And mechanically, your brain actually loves that label.
Wait, really? Why?
Because it serves as an energy-saving mechanism. If you are inherently flawed, then there is no point in trying, which means the brain doesn't have to expend the calories required for change.
Oh, wow. So the label lazy becomes a biological defense mechanism against the pain of trying and failing.
Exactly. It protects you from the effort.
So, okay, how do you break out of a defense mechanism that literally feels like your actual personality?
Well, the text describes this really pivotal moment for the man. One evening, sitting alone, something shifted.
Was it a big epiphany?
No, not a loud epiphany at all, just a quiet question rising up. He just thought, what if I'm not lazy?
He just sat with that.
He sat with it, and then he asked a more, structural question. What if I'm not lazy, but simply lost?
Wow. That is a massive distinction. What is the psychological difference there between being lazy and being lost?
Well, it completely reframes the problem. Being lazy implies a moral or character failing, right?
Right, like a deep personal flaw.
Yes, but being lost implies a navigational error.
Oh, I like that.
The text points out that this new thought felt really uncomfortable to him.
Why uncomfortable?
Because if he wasn't inherently lazy, then his character wasn't to blame. His daily mechanics were to blame.
He couldn't hide behind the label anymore.
Exactly. He had to take a hard, unfiltered look at the architecture of his daily life.
And what he found was basically a complete void. He wasn't lazy. He was living entirely without structure.
Without any structure at all.
He was trying to build a completely different, highly ambitious life while repeating the exact same daily actions that got him stuck in the first place.
And that is the crux of the illusion the author points out. We think that an intense emotional desire for change is enough to actually create change.
Like, if I just want it badly enough, it'll happen.
Right. We think dopamine and desire alter reality. But they don't. Only action alters reality. If you want to build a house, standing in an empty field wanting the house very badly won't lay a single gak.
You need a blueprint.
You need a blueprint. You need a process. This man realized his laziness was actually just decision fatigue. He was waking up every day having to decide how to act rather than having default behaviors to fall back on.
So what does this mean for how we actually pull ourselves out of a rut? Because the instinct, once you realize you're lost and you've wasted all this time, is to overcompensate.
Oh, totally.
You look for a massive burst of motivation. You tell yourself, okay, I've been doing this all wrong. Tomorrow's day one. I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m., do a cold plunge, run 10 miles, meditate for an hour, and just completely reinvent myself.
Yes, we culturally obsess over that narrative. It's like the Hollywood montage approach to personal development.
Right. You want the dramatic music. You want the sweat. You want the instant, visible transformation to prove to yourself that you've changed.
Exactly. But the source text outlines a profoundly different, almost counterintuitive approach. And this is the part where we really need to look at the underlying mechanics, because it challenges everything we are taught about ambition.
So what did he do?
The next morning for this man didn't look like a montage. The text explicitly notes that there was no sudden motivation.
No 5 a.m. run.
No run. The sky didn't part. He didn't feel a burst of limitless energy.
But there was awareness.
Yes. He didn't try to change his whole life. He changed one singular action.
He woke up, and for the first time, he didn't reach for his phone.
He just sat there.
For 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes of silence.
10 minutes.
Okay, let me stop you there and push back on this a bit.
Yeah.
Because I think anyone listening who is currently feeling stuck is going to hear that and roll their eyes.
I get that, yeah.
Slowly look at this. 10 minutes of silence. That sounds like internet self-help fluff.
It does.
Like if someone is deeply behind in their life, maybe their career is stalled, they're out of shape, their relationships are strained. How does just sitting in silence for 10 minutes actually fix a ruined life? I mean, it sounds way too trivial to matter.
You are absolutely right to question that, because on the surface, it doesn't fix any of those external problems.
Right. It doesn't pay the mortgage.
It doesn't pay the mortgage. It doesn't fix a relationship. And the author acknowledges this. The text says it didn't feel powerful. It didn't feel life-changing.
Yeah.
But then it adds the critical insight. But it was different. And that difference was the beginning.
But why is that difference at the beginning? Like, what is actually happening in the brain during those 10 minutes?
Well, we have to look at the brain's threat detection center, the amygdala. When you tell yourself you're going to completely overhaul your life tomorrow, wake up at 5 a.m., run 10 miles, all of that, your brain perceives that massive sudden change as a threat to your equilibrium.
Oh, I see.
It triggers a fight or flight response, which usually manifests as extreme procrastination or anxiety. The brilliance of the 10 minutes of silence is that it bypasses the amygdala entirely.
It flies under the radar.
Yes, exactly. It is an action so small the brain doesn't bother resisting it. But the magic isn't in the silence itself.
What is it in?
It's in the transaction of trust. He made a promise to himself the night before, I will not look at my phone for 10 minutes, and the next morning, he kept that promise. For someone whose entire identity was built on unkept promises, keeping one microscopic promise begins to rewrite the neural pathways of self-trust.
So it's not about the magnitude of the action at all. It's about breaking the streak of failure.
Exactly. He proved to himself in real time that he possessed the ability to control his own behavior, even if only for 600 seconds.
He demonstrated agency.
Yes. And the text shows the natural progression of this mechanical shift. The next day, he repeated it. A few days later, he added a short walk. Then a few minutes of deep focus.
One small promise kept. But let me challenge this again. Sure. What happens on day 3 or day 4 when he inevitably fails? Because, I mean, if his fragile new identity is based on keeping this one micro promise, and on Thursday he hits the snooze button or grabs his phone, doesn't the whole house of cards collapse?
That's a great point.
Doesn't that reinforce the lazy label even harder?
That is the danger of relying on perfection, for sure. But the author is very specific here. The text says he started adding these habits Not perfectly, not consistently at first, but intentionally.
Intentionally.
Right. This is a crucial mechanical distinction. When you build identity-based habits, failure is factored into the architecture.
So it's expected.
Exactly. If you view a missed day as a character flaw, then yes, the house of cards falls. But if you view a missed day as just a missed repetition, you simply pick it up the next day. The intention, the deliberate choice to return to the practice, is what solidifies the habit, not an unbroken streak.
Right. It completely removes that crippling pressure of having to be flawless all the time.
It really does.
And here is where the narrative really turns, I think. As these days and, imperfect weeks passed, the text says something unusual began to happen.
He started trusting himself.
Yes. And not because he felt inspired all the time. He started trusting himself because he started showing up on the days he didn't feel like it.
And that is the dividing line between an amateur and a professional in the game of life. It is the turning point from a life driven by fleeting emotion to a life anchored in structure.
Which leads to what I think is the most profound realization in this entire deep dive.
What's that?
He realized something that completely shatters our modern obsession with hustle culture. He realized that motivation is entirely unreliable.
Yes. We treat motivation like a prerequisite for action, don't we?
All the time.
We tell ourselves, I will do the work when I feel motivated to do the work. But from a neurochemical standpoint, motivation is just a spike of dopamine that occurs in anticipation of a reward.
It's just an emotion.
It is an emotion, and emotions are weather. You wouldn't build a house relying only on the days it happens to be sunny and 75 degrees.
You'd never finish it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to be able to lay bricks in the rain, in the cold, and when you are completely exhausted.
It's like motivation is a lightning strike.
Oh, I like that.
Right. It is loud, it is flashy, it lights up the whole sky, and for a split second, you feel incredibly powerful. You get that dopamine hit just from planning your new life.
But then it's gone.
Exactly. The lightning is gone. You can't capture it in a bottle, and you certainly can't use it to power your daily life.
Mm-hmm.
But habits, the text calls habits the quiet builders.
Quiet builders.
Yeah. If motivation is lightning, then habits are a slow-moving river. A river doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It just flows. And over time, that slow, quiet, relentless flow will carve through solid rock.
Not with a sudden burst of power.
No, with endless repetition.
I want to take that idea of mechanics a step further, because the difference between motivation and habits is literally how our brains are wired.
Okay, tell me more.
Think of building a new life like moving a heavy train. Relying on motivation is like trying to push a massive train car across dirt.
That sounds exhausting.
It takes an incredible amount of fuel, pure willpower just to move it an inch. And eventually, you run out of fuel.
Which is when you collapse back on the couch and call yourself lazy.
Exactly. But building habits is like laying down steel tracks.
Oh, I see.
The action of laying the track is slow, it's tedious, it's unglamorous. It doesn't look like you're moving the train at all. You're just sitting in silence for 10 minutes. You're just taking a 10-minute walk.
But what you're actually doing is myelinating neural pathways in your brain.
You are laying steel tracks. And once those tracks are laid, you barely need any fuel, any motivation to get that train moving. It just glides along the path of least resistance.
That completely changes how we should view our daily routines. The author states, and I love this quote, "Habits don't shout. They don't demand attention. They just repeat. And with repetition, they reshape who you are."
It's beautiful.
It's not just poetic, right? It's structural. Every time you repeat an action, you are essentially casting a vote for the type of person you want to become.
And what happens when you cast enough votes?
You win the election. Your identity shifts. You stop being the person who wants to be healthy, and you actually become the person who is healthy because you possess the underlying architecture.
Right. Look at the outcome for the man in this text. Weeks later, he looked at himself again. He was in the same body, the same job, the same world.
But his internal operating system had fundamentally changed.
He was no longer waiting for tomorrow. He was acting today. He stopped chasing the lightning strike of motivation, and he dedicated himself to laying down the steel tracks of discipline.
And slowly, silently, he was becoming someone else. The text clarifies this beautifully. Not a different person overnight, but a stronger one every day.
It takes all the pressure off this idea of a grand, sweeping metamorphosis and replaces it with the quiet dignity of incremental strength.
It really does.
And when you cross that bridge and look back, it changes how you view your own past. When this man finally understood the mechanics of his journey, he realized that laziness was never his identity.
It was never a stain on his soul.
No, it was just the result of a life without direction, a life running on empty without any habits to fall back on.
Once he changed his daily inputs, he changed his output.
He didn't have to overhaul his entire personality. He just had to change the first thing he did when he opened his eyes.
It is such a profound shift in perspective. To realize that the thing you thought was a permanent, shameful character flaw was actually just a temporary operational error.
You just had the wrong software running in the background.
And software can be updated. Code can be rewritten one line at a time,
Right.
one 10-minute block of silence at a time.
Exactly.
So if you are listening to this right now and you're sitting there carrying the weight of that word, if you think you are fundamentally lazy, I want you to pause. Don't judge yourself. Just pause for a moment. Look closely at your daily actions. Look at what you are repeating.
Because the truth we've unpacked from this text is beautifully simple, yet entirely life-altering. You don't need a whole new life. You don't need a new personality.
No.
You just need new habits. Small ones, simple ones, repeated daily.
You don't need to wait to be struck by lightning. You just need to start laying down the tracks. So think about tomorrow morning. What is the one microscopic promise you can make? Maybe it really is just 10 minutes of silence before you reach for your phone that will finally prove to yourself that you aren't lazy, but just ready to be found.
And as we close this deep dive, I think there's a broader question here for all of us. Well, we live in a society that is completely driven by algorithms and social media, right? It constantly rewards the grand reveal.
Oh, the before and after picture.
Exactly. We're conditioned to worship the hustle and these loud, flashy announcements of change. But when we value loud motivation over quiet discipline, we wire an entire generation to feel like failures if they aren't constantly inspired.
That is so true.
What if the most revolutionary thing you can do isn't a massive transformation, but just quietly keeping a promise to yourself when absolutely no one is watching?
Wow, the invisible architecture of routine. That is what sustains us.
It is. Because in the end, your future is not built by what you want. It's built by what you repeat. You are one habit away from becoming unstoppable.